back into that groove one step. I think he's about ready to go into Jim Jones on the experiment that the CIA conducted with Jim Jones on how to mass hypnotize the black man and black woman. They know just about how you think, and they know that you know, in love with the with them so much that you feel so insecure if you don't conform to their way of thinking. I got to read something from Message to the Black Man right quick. Separate and be saved. The unwillingness of the slave to leave their master is due to their great love for the slave master. If America is unwilling to grant her 22 million ex-slaves freedom to go for sale today, it is the same unwillingness of white America forefathers in dealing with our parents less than 100 years ago. During the time of Emancipation Proclamation, we were scattered to the winds without any knowledge or ability to undertake the responsibility of half freedoms. Our fathers, lacking the skill and the training needed to provide for themselves, were forced to remain with the master in order to receive even the barest necessities of life. Now that accounts more so today because we don't have no more mom and pop stores, no more supermarkets, no more farms, barely, But let's deal with this. We might let it play out, but if you don't hear from me again, it's to be continued.
That I had, we'll update that at some future point. Now, this following program, and this, by the way, this particular tape you're about to hear was produced for us by Eric Siegel up at sister station KALX, which airs excerpts of these programs. And this particular program was produced a number of years ago. This is a tape of a press conference given by the late Representative Leo Ryan's legislative assistant, Joe Holsinger. He had a press conference on May 23rd of 1980, at which he spoke to people, representatives of a black psychological association, black psychologists, and he talked about Jonestown and the very firm indications that, in fact, Jonestown was a U.S. intelligence operation, and then when it was blown, those people were deliberately liquidated. And if we're thinking about...
A lot of you young ones don't know about Jim Jones and Jonestown. They got a movie about it, and they don't hardly play it that much. But Jim Jones was a charismatic white redneck preacher that captivated the imaginations of black people, and he got them to self-poison themselves. This was back a long time ago. A lot of you wasn't even thought of. You was just a twinkle in your eye. But this is what we talk back. Now this very audio that you're listening to is old as hell. It's about 30 years old. I recorded that audio in the 90s. And even they go back telling you when they recorded, you know, man, you ain't going to get this kind of, this is more bounce to the ounce. Plus, we don't spend all that time uh, talking about nothing. We get right to the point, but I still can't get no love. Because y'all need to take these audios, videos that I'm hooking up, spread them out, study them, and it don't take a rocket scientist to know that this is true. Let me get out of here.
Relocation in this context, and ask yourself whether the same media voices that didn't cover this event properly in Guyana would cover it if it happened, say, in the middle of Wyoming or something like that. And bear in mind Representative Drug Czar Bennett's proposal to relocate kids from inner city areas that are beset by drugs, because these relocation proposals are ominously reminiscent of the relocation of those people who were considered undesirable by the Third Reich. So those of you who are taping, please get ready to do so. And please get ready to do so. We're going to go for about a half hour or so. Here is Joe Holsinger. Joe Holsinger.
Since I had appeared on a public television several months ago with a group of black professionals, mostly psychologists and doctors, they invited me to appear today to provide information that they thought might be that I might be able to help with this forum today with their research. I appeared in Washington in February before the International Relations Committee and made some statements and some charges and documentation which resulted in the Foreign Affairs Committee, or International Relations Committee, which they call it today. They voted to ask the House Select Committee on Intelligence to investigate my charges. And they are currently investigating those charges by the House Select Committee on Intelligence. Can you tell us what the charges are? Well, the charges basically amounted to CIA contact with both the Burnham government there and with the People's Temple. That originally, it was my belief at the time I went to Washington that the purpose of our involvement there was to support the government of Burnham for commercial reasons, and they used the People's Temple almost as enforcers to help support an unpopular government there to keep control of the government of Guyana. We knew that there had been an article in the San Mateo Times in December of '79 which indicated that the Deputy Chief of Mission there, Richard Dwyer, was in fact the CIA station chief. And he was the one that went to Jonestown with Leo's party, and he claimed to be slightly wounded, but there was a tape made at the time of the murders and suicides there with Jones yelling, "Get Dwyer out of here, get Dwyer out of here." And the indications are that it was Dwyer who went back into Jonestown after Leo was murdered and was there at the time. And there's great questions just who shot Jim Jones and why, whether Jones was shot to shut him up. The question also as to how all these people died and just when they died, which is all documented here. But soon I came back from Washington, because of my testimony, I started getting documentation from a Berkeley psychologist called the Penal Colony here, and from the Alliance for Preservation of Religious Liberty in Washington, which indicated other things, one of which was that George Philip Blakey was a top Jones aide. He was the man who arranged the purchase or the lease of the land in Guyana, provided the money and arranged the lease down there in 1974. He also was tracked now as being a CIA operative in Angola in 1975 with UNITA. He's also the same guy who was the top aide who arranged all this purchase and the finances, is also the husband of Deborah Layton Blakey, who fled Jonestown and made those charges. He's the brother-in-law of Larry Layton, who was acquitted yesterday. And it's interesting to note the Peninsula Times Tribune says yesterday the jury appeared, in acquitting Layton, the jury appeared to have agreed with the defense contention that Layton was brainwashed and drugged at the time of the shootings, could not be held criminally responsible. But the gist of what I'm getting to is this: I've received a lot of documentation which I will value here today that indicates the strong possibility that Jonestown and the People's Temple
This is to be continued.